Uh, Here we go. Let's get started, I guess. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, I guess. I don't see anybody. Well, maybe. So this is the new meeting series for the community update. This is a little bit of an ad hoc meeting, given that the team is still planning to go through Kanban training next week. We're still working through what of all of our new ceremonies will be going into 2019, but I think it was important to get this meeting on the board and kind of just give a brief update on. We'll start off with kind of demo and some of the things that the team has been working on. We'll talk about what our current priorities are, give a quick update from Mr. Zetlin, and then talk about kind of next steps for us, and then as we move forward with the rest of this meeting. And then we'll kind of end it from there. So I don't think it'll take the full time, but I guess it depends on how deep we go on some of these topics. For demo, I think the team has some things prepared that we want to show. So I will turn it over to anyone that wants to volunteer to go first.
I can go.
Here we go, Andy.
Do it.
So, right. Let me know. Can you guys see my browser here?
Looking good.
Okay, cool. So, yesterday, this is work in progress, but yesterday I put up a PR to update the checkout flow with so we could process credit card payments. Braintree is a preferred partner, so they have like a little widget that's built on top of web requests and the payment request API. So I wrote up a little thing about that. There's some links in the PR if you want to check it out. But just to demo it, so if we come in here, I've already added an item to the shopping cart. If I go into checkout, I've already added some shipping information here too, but you come in here where there used to be just a simple select drop down that said I want to pay with check or money order, and there were no other options in there. There's now a credit card form that shows up. So this has some all provided by Braintree, by the way, some validation built in. So if I blur out a credit card number, it'll client side validate, tell me that that's not valid. There is some documentation that I have to fill out. So there's a test card number that you can put in here. Obviously you don't have to put in your own credit card numbers. Let me just fill all this stuff out. The expiration date has to be some date in the future, and it'll accept that. And then the CVV can be any 3 digits, and that's fine. Let me actually show you. If you don't fill out all the forms, it'll give you a overall error down here at the bottom. Please check your information and try again. So then if I do fill in, it'll save that. It updates the kind of summary display here. Here's your credit card. You're paying with a credit card. It ends in whatever numbers you put in there. And then just to complete the checkout flow here, there's a shipping method. And you can place the order. And it goes through. So that is payments with credit cards.
Outstanding.
Nice.
Thanks.
No, for those of you maybe who need some of the context, because this seems pretty elementary, and I understand that, there is a payment request API dependency here, and that's very much intentional. The PWA Studio mission has always been to focus quality efforts on the browsers and the user agents and the devices which we know are going to be in most people's hands in the world in the next couple of years. That allows us to focus more of our efforts in a smaller and more efficient team on getting things very, very right and very, very good for the next generation of commerce. And that means, of course, that we focus on things like payment request API at the expense, at least initially, of traditional checkouts. Now, it's not always been the case, but you're going to see this from the future work. It's always going to be focused on the new secure first, and then we'll move on to backfilling other functionality. Very much on purpose, and Andy, as a relatively new addition to the team, has knocked it out of the park with this one. So thank you very much.
Sweet. Yeah, thanks.
I can show off what I did next. Let me
Yeah, Stevens is not as good.
Yeah, following up the addition of payments. Can you guys see my screen? I think so. Um,
Yep.
I just added. So we use an icon library called Feather right now. I think that's going to be changing soon for Venia to Material. But the way it was done was by importing basically the entirety of the Feather library. It just because by virtue of how it was written, it just it has like a single export that is about 17K gzip. So what I did is I went through and I found this implementation called React Feather, which basically just Reactified Feather library. I also added a cool build tool for us to look at the bundle stats. So that's what you saw just a second ago. You just run npm run stats venia from the root, and it'll run this bundle analyzer. So as you can see here, this is the previous output from the build, like before my PR. 17K gzip of Feather, and then I ran it again afterwards, and we're down to, with the React Feather implementation, we're down to 1.2 KB gzipped. Overall, it's not that big of an impact when you're looking at the entirety of the build, but it's still relatively. I think it's pretty good, just for simplifying one thing. Anyways, yeah, not as fancy as what Andy has done, but cool nonetheless.
No, that's awesome. It looked like Feather in the previous before your PR was like one of the biggest dependencies there too.
Yeah,
It
that kind of
was,
shuffles
and this
around.
is big.
Anyways.
Sorry, no, go on, Stephen. I wanted to let you finish, but
No, I
this
think
is one
that's
of the
it.
best PRs of all time.
Yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you, Stephen. Any questions? By the way, were there any questions for Andy before that? Feel free to chime in. Otherwise, if we have another demo ready.
Yeah, I can go with some doc updates.
Awesome.
Yep. Share my screen. Can you see my browser? Okay, so doc updates. I improved the checkout implementation doc page. It's it's here in the Venia section. Basically, I took what's currently the state of the checkout implementation and did a deep dive into it and added a lot more technical details on what's happening behind the scenes. I provided links to the source code so you can follow through what's happening. Also, linked to the relevant REST API. Basically, the point of this is to show how we implemented the checkout. And as Andy mentioned, we're going to be adding a section about the credit card payment stuff soon. Is there any questions on that? Nope. Nope. That's it for me.
I can go ahead and go. We got one more. So I have been working on re-implementing the upward server spec in PHP. So that is this entire library me and Tommy have been working on together for past few weeks. We have most of the resolvers ported over. I think right now we are still waiting on the proxy resolver and the matching resolver, which is our your regex matching. But what is really cool is that since the specs are external to the npm package itself, we can run the same npm test specs against our PHP implementation, which is what this is doing right now. And you can see that we get a pretty good build. We have a few errors that are going to come in later in a minute,
relating partially to how we handle mustache templates versus what the Node server does. But for a brand new implementation in brand new language versus Node, 41 tests passing out of 44 is pretty awesome. So we'll get those other resolvers done in the next few weeks and get this more cleanly integrated, and should be really cool.
All right, thanks, Ben. Any questions for Ben?
No, but comments. It's fantastic to see the upward protocol and specifications potential being realized. It's quite imperfect and young at this stage. And so it's extra brave for Ben and Tommy as well, who's committed as on the repository also, and has contributed a great deal of across the platform help. It's brave of them to take this on, and I really appreciate it. And it's going to be a linchpin of the cloud offering that we're coming out with soon, which incidentally leads right into my thing. But I know there's other agenda, right?
I have something to demo.
Exactly.
Okay. Are you seeing the right thing?
I believe so, if it's supposed to be Venia.
Are you seeing Venia?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you see code now?
Afraid not.
Yes, I see code now.
See code now?
And now Venia, now code.
Okay, cool. It's on the right. Okay. I wasn't sure if it was stuck. All right. So what I was working on for the last couple weeks, I guess, is turning us into having support with Docker so that we don't have to be stuck. Anybody on any kind of platform can build and work with PWA. So I set up a reverse proxy with Nginx so that we could actually have HTTPS support locally with our own custom URL. So I haven't quite finished up some of the details, but one of the bigger things was I just ran a Docker file before, and we needed something more to get the service worker to work on a secure URL. So there's our wonderful service worker working and the app working as expected. One outstanding thing that is next on my list is it was working with mounting a volume file for local so that it would hot reload on any changes you had locally with just the Docker file, but it appears that the Docker file way of mounting volumes is slightly different with Docker Compose, which is what's running both of the Nginx reverse proxy as well as our application here. So I have to do a little bit of work to get that to figure out how that's not going to overwrite all of the previous work done in the Docker file build. But other than that, the only thing you'd have to do to get this up and running locally would be to run a Docker Compose, just Docker Compose build, and then you would do just a Docker Compose up once you are ready. So we can see here also that all of the requests are coming in through the Nginx proxy itself. So that's what I got for this session, at least. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thanks, Caden. Any questions for Caden?
Super great.
Yep.
Super great.
Awesome.
Really is. And it also reflects a much, much closer, even than our dev process, configuration to the way that things will work in the Commerce Cloud. And therefore, once this Docker solution is a little bit more mature, it'll provide an excellent staging and end-to-end testing platform for all of us.
All right, so I think that may be it from the Magento team for demo, but just general open call here for anybody that wants to demo an item related to our PWA work. All right. So thanks everyone for the demos. Again, this was kind of an ad hoc, I think, demo for us, and and really was just based on the fact that I think we haven't really had one over the last few weeks with the holidays. So exciting to see all the good work that has happened over the last few weeks. Thanks, Stephen, for the cat. And obviously there's a number of new team members, including myself. So a great opportunity to see some of the work that some of the new team members are starting to contribute already. So up next, I wanted to turn it over to Mr. Zetland to talk about anything outside of what we have already seen in terms of the team's work. Obviously, we've been heads down on reviewing open pull requests and getting some of that work merged, and the team has been really doing a great job on burning down that backlog of pull requests. But if James, you want to give an update on anything on top of mind for you.
Sure. I have a short agenda, and I don't have any slide collateral or anything like that. But this will be brief and hopefully a little smaller and simpler than the way that I usually go on. So thank you, everyone. The demos are fantastic, and I we have been waiting for additional staff and additional help sort of from an internal core engineering perspective that we can fully we aren't asking quite as much of our extraordinarily generous community members who are on this call. And we've received it. We have some fantastic new team members, and we've achieved a velocity that will allow us to drum roll, please. Sorry, there's no MIDI in this. There's no onboard sound with these. I don't know if you guys know that. You need a MIDI connection, so it's a controller to drive some sort of synthesizer, soft synth in most cases. Where was I? Oh, we have gotten the velocity to achieve a release of PWA Studio 2.0.0. Called that because of the big architecture change, but it will be the first official release that is not a pre-release or candidate. And
James, it looks like you might be having
cool with
connection issues with your video on, so maybe mute your video and then keep going.
Are you saying my video is somehow objectionable?
The video is great, but it seems to be slowing your network connection down.
Understood. Can you guys hear me a little better?
Yeah.
Maybe that doesn't help that much, but yeah, I wanted to say that we are confidently targeting an initial release date of PWA Studio 2.0 for the end of January. What this mostly means is that we have a real and integrated solution for deploying a storefront with a Magento supported PWA in our enterprise cloud. And that's huge because that puts real load on our systems and then will increase the turnaround and the feedback cycle for improving our performance. And so as a result, we have been focused on two items towards the end of this release cycle. And one of them is completing the feature set, which includes Andy Terranova's terrific work of delivering the final payments part of the regular happy path of conversion, of merging in as kind of a stretch goal some of the My Account functionality that our community members have stretched out and implemented, of improving quality and of taking those final leaps towards really world-class performance. Stephen introduced a pull request which maintained exact functionality parity and reduced bundle size by 20%. And though I don't have it to demo, our next job is to take these 200K on average images and shrink them and resize them using responsive image techniques, which should land very shortly. And we have something that seems to produce about 30 to 40% less payload overall. So what that amounts to is the final stretch. We're very excited about it. And we're doing all hands on deck, which is partly why you haven't heard as much from us on social media as is typical. And when we come out with that release, my head always in the clouds, so I'm the most excited about what that frees us up to do for the next big changes, the next big advancements. That release being out will put us in a maintenance cycle for the 2.0.0 code and start to stabilize the APIs that you were using, which I know everyone's been waiting for. So I'm super excited about it, and we'll keep you updated what changes or when detail emerges about what feature sets will be in that initial 2.0.0 release. And that's the main thing. That's what I got. That and I will issue a double secret pre-release to anyone who can name every album that was displayed behind me.
Do it again.
Get a screen grab.
You have
Thanks,
5
James.
seconds. Thank you.
Is that Spice Girls? Is that?
It should have been.
All right. So as James kind of talked about there, there's been a little bit. We've been a little bit light, I think, on reviewing the exact backlog and actual issues in grooming, but that has been purposeful to some degree. And again, as I mentioned on the beginning of the call, the team is going through Kanban training next week, and so we're expecting some of our internal processes to change, and obviously that has kind of a cascading effect. So as we wait for formalizing some of those the ceremonies and the processes, it'll also have an impact on this meeting or the information that we're passing on to the community. But again, after that meeting next week and after that training next week, expect to hear more from us and for us to get back to more of a kind of reviewing issues, open issues, and moving tickets along the board and kind of those types of discussions. So thank you I don't know if anyone has any other open items or open questions. I'll give a quick pause for that. All right. So thanks for joining us today then. And thanks everyone for all of the hard work and the demos. And then I'll send out an update after this, and of course we'll post the video. But I guess we will end 18 minutes early.
Fantastic.
Nailed it.
All right.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, everyone.
See you
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.